boses siya. Palakpakan naman natin yung MC natin sa actually. Minsan ka ng Bisaya, kasabot ng Bisaya sa raise your hand. Very good. Bisaya, I'm Cebuano, but since college I've been in Manila. Can we all just, let's all stand up for a very short while. Can you all please stand up? Stand up, stand up, stand up. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. I'd like everybody to shake their right hand. Shake their right hand. Very, very well. Okay, very good. And shake your left arm. Left arm. Now shake your right knee. And then your left foot. Left foot. Now shake every part of your body. Alright, very good. Let's give a round of applause for everybody. For surviving. This is your third day here, I believe. Okay, we can all sit down now. I'm sure sobrang info overload tayo. Pero okay lang. One more session. Okay ba kayo? Pwede ba? Pwede ba? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I am Karl and I'm from the office of Mr. Benigno Makino. And I can't find that. So I work for Mr. Bamakino, and I also work, I've been very privileged to work for two wonderful social entrepreneurs, again, Mr. Bamakino and Mr. Tony Belotto. You guys remember the Tony's talk last Monday? Okay, so for the past, ever since college, I've worked with that guy, and now I'm working with another social entrepreneur. Ever since college, social enterprise has been my passion. It helps me wake up in the morning. Quick story, a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with Bot's disease. And 3 levels of my spinal column were broken. And I had to spend a month in the hospital. But I was people were wondering if I ever got depressed or frustrated about that. But I was so full of life. Every single day, kahit hindi ako pwede gumalaw, ang hirap pumihit kumain kasi nakahiga lang ako. But I was so alive because I was so in love with my work, and that is social enterprise. And my goal this afternoon really is just to share that enthusiasm with you. Okay ba yun? Okay na ba yun? Konting a few minutes na lang. So let me just talk about social entrepreneurship very quickly. Some of you might know it, but there are a lot of definitions for social enterprise in the world. Some are very strict, some are not so strict. In Gawad Galinga and in the other social entrepreneur places where I go, it's usually broadly defined as negosyong walang iniiwan. I like that because it's very simple. Negosyong walang iniiwan, meaning it works for the poor and the marginalized, but it also does not alienate those who have or those who are fortunate to have. Negosyong walang iniiwan. But more technically, a social enterprise really is an organization, a group, young people or old people who want to help a marginalized community or a poor community or a sector or a particular sector using business or using a business model that allows it to be sustainable. And sustainable in different ways. Not just financially, meaning it will not depend on donors forever. Pwede naman sa simula, it will depend on donors. But it will have to depend on its own profit mechanism. But it also is socially sustainable, meaning it does not alienate anyone, it does not harm any sector of society. And finally, it does not harm the environment. So, profit, planet, people. I think Tito Tony talked about it also last Monday, our efforts in social enterprise. But let me just recall maybe some of the things that Tito Tony talked about. Next. The next slide is supposed to show our definition of poverty. And what we'd like to say is, it's the circle. What it's supposed to say is that in Gawad Galingan, in the social enterprise space where I belong, we don't look at poverty simply as a lack of material resources, or a lack of money, or a lack of things that you need in order to survive. We look at poverty as a loss of dignity, a loss of human dignity. People are poor because they're not empowered, or they don't have the opportunity to empower themselves, or a painful lack of caring and sharing. Those who have are not going out there to help those who do not have. Because we look at poverty this way, our approach to poverty is rather different. And that approach is to connect. We like to connect communities to classrooms. We like to connect urban areas, urban institutions to rural institutions. And we like to connect A top-down approach, meaning we work with big corporations, we work with national government, and we mix it up with a bottom-up approach, meaning we go to the communities talaga, and we work with local authorities and local organizations. If we work, you probably hear this from every speaker during this summit, that if we all just come together and connect, we would be able to do a lot of things. Father Ben Negres of the Ateneo de Manila University, former president there, used to say that the problem with our Philippines is there's a huge problem of disconnect. We're all disconnected. We're all disconnected literally. An archipelago is disconnected, but we're also very disconnected from one another. The one that mentioned Sir Serafin this morning, when it's so hard to cross the street and say hi to a neighbor because we're just a disconnected society. And maybe one way to connect each other is social enterprise. It's not the way. We're not saying it's the best solution. We're not even saying it will always be the solution. But we've seen in my work that it can be the solution. Done right, it could be a very fulfilling career for some of you. It could also be a very fulfilling way to empower communities. And there are usually 3 ways to categorize social enterprises. And I'd like to share that this afternoon. First is connecting communities to employment. You all know this. We have a very big unemployment and underemployment problem in this country. I think it's more than the numbers would say. We have a very big problem with unemployment and underemployment. If you connect more communities to employment, very good. Another category is connecting communities to basics. Basic education, energy, water, food, etc. Social enterprises that help communities reach or have access to basics. And finally, third, they're connecting communities who usually have a product already to markets. Markets that will buy the product not because naawa sila sa community, but because they really like the product or they really like the service. Connecting communities to markets. Let me give quick examples for each. First, connecting to employment. Thank you. What's your name? Three. Thank you, Three. Connecting to employment. Good luck. Thank you. In Kawad Gilingan, like Tito Tony probably shared, that we build a lot of houses, but we also have a lot of residents who are unemployed. One idea we recently launched this year is what we call GCAP, or Galing Kapitbahayan. It's a new social enterprise where we mix skills training from TESDA, values formation training from Kawad Gilingan, with social skills training. Meaning skills like communication skills, critical thinking skills, skills to work as a team, skills that you have in order to have the initiative. In short, skills that are usually not taught in a values formation program or in a skills training program. If you put it together, we believe that our GK residents or other residents in poorer communities will be more employable. And then, because of a network of corporate partners like Shell, Hyundai, etc., call centers, for example, we could link up our Kawad Gilingan residents with these corporations. We recently launched this. Again, the goal is to provide skills, make our residents employable. It's an example of a social enterprise that links poor people to employability and employment. Number 1. Number 2, an example for a connect to basics social enterprise. Usually very common lalo na in the provinces, you'll have wind energy social enterprises, solar energy, marami tayong examples, but this second one is something very close to my heart. I also teach once a week, and in the school where I teach, we have a social enterprise we call Click Academy, and the goal is to provide basic education. So we connect communities to basic education in a way that's hopefully cheaper than public school education at a better quality. How do we do that? We are investing in online infrastructure and a training program for future homeschool teachers from our nanay partners. Medyo mahaba yun. Point is, we want to equip, there are a lot of college graduates, I'm sure you know, that are either underemployed or are not doing anything. What if we could tap them to become homeschool teachers through a training program? They could access an online infrastructure that we're building with PLDT and equip them with the teaching material so that they could charge residents at a very minimal fee afford yung mga class C or D in Metro Manila, for example. Then maybe you could have a sustainable, dapat hindi siya racket, parang homeschool teacher business for your nanay na currently idle. So that's our second example of a social enterprise connecting them to basic education. Okay ba ba? Medyo marami. Okay ba? Game. Asti. Last, ito sobrang sikat na to. Ito yung pinaka-common na example of a social enterprise. Many of the social enterprises we know are connect-to-market social enterprises. It usually comes from a livelihood training program. You know, you go to a community, you teach them how to make candles, you leave, diba? Our goal is sana, you don't just teach them candles. So, that's all good, and that's very nice. But let's make sure that whatever you teach them, there's a market for those products. There's a market for those services. We just don't teach them something that we like to teach. Because nanlulungkot at nanghihinayaw, na-frustrate din yung communities na tinutulungan natin. One example of a connect-to-market social enterprise, this is Ate Maricel, resident of Enchanted Farm. Did Tony talk about the Enchanted Farm? Okay, so she's a resident there, Ate Maricel. Every time we go to the community, she always comes to us and says, Karl, meron akong bamboo stuff with glitter, bilhin mo naman, souvenir. Or, Karl, meron akong yema with nuts, bilhin mo naman, sarap. And every time we see the product or we taste it, it's not really great, diba? Parang, you buy it because you love Ate Maricel. But you have to be honest to Ate Maricel. Ate Maricel, I love you, but I don't love your work. You have to be honest. And so, what we did was, we linked her up with someone who's into, backtrack. One time, she shared that she could turn goat's milk into cheese. Goat's milk into cheese. Ako, growing up in the city, never heard that could happen. Sorry, new. But it could happen. We tried it. Super good. Problem is, Ate Maricel does not have the skills yet to turn it into an enterprise or a brand, etc. So we linked her up with, this is Chilka Alvarez. She's a lawyer who got tired of being a lawyer because sabi niya wala nangyayari sa justice system. Sabi niya, I want to do a social enterprise, can you link me up with somebody? We linked her up with Ate Maricel, and together they formed what they now call Gourmet Queso. Although I think it now has a different brand because it changes every month to suit the different markets. They were able to come up with gourmet cheese that was able to pass the standards of our French interns. This is a lady, I think her name is Julian. She's from ESCP Paris. We regularly have French students, I think I mentioned it to Tony. They were able to try the cheese. You know how Parisians love their cheese? They said our cheese could compete with their cheese. Suddenly, Ate Maricel's cheese now can be really good cheese. And they're now coming up with a stronger brand, bigger business plan in order to launch it and hopefully help Ate Maricel in the process. Ate Maricel also is now able to take care of her family. Her family has some problems that they were able to solve thanks to her partnership with Chilka and that social enterprise. I give a few more examples of connect to market because it's a very common one. Another common social enterprise, have you heard of Rags to Riches? Okay, you all know the story of payatas, nanays turning rags and now turning them into wonderful products that are at 8,000 pesos each. So you know that thanks to Rajo Laurel, Amina Arenas, 5 peso rag is now an 8,000 peso bag. Social enterprise linking our payatas nanays into a real market that buys the product, not because nakakawa sila kay nanay, but because they really, really like the product. Okay? And so, wait, before that, my favorite, because I'm also a part of this one, this is Tita Linda. She's a neighbor of Ate Maricel, also in the Enchanted Farm. Tita Linda loves to cook. She cooks very well. One day, she introduced to us what she called 5 seasons. Tita Tony ever made this already. But 5 seasons. And then, hinalo na yung mga dahon ng avocado, etc. Tapos, to be honest, last siya sa tinola at first. Kasi mainit, tapos parang lasa tinola, I swear. And then we're like, tita baka pwede malamig kasi mainit nun. So, nilagyan ng ice, nilagyan ng coffee, honey and something. Sobrang sarap. Eventually, we linked her up with some social entrepreneurs, including me. We formed a group, we're a 5-man team, and we're calling it Bayani Brew. So Tony probably mentioned this already. Bayani Brew, and my favorite Bayani Brew product is purple leaf tea. We turn kamote leaves into bottled tea. It's really nutritious, and it tastes really, really good. We're now able to sell it to Human Nature, and soon, if we get FDA approval, because you really have to go through government approval, we will be able to sell it in Shell Select stores and hopefully many stop in the future. What was once 5 seasons tinola tasting tea from Tita Linda is now Bayani Brew, which I'm very proud of because a few weeks ago, Bayani Brew won the second prize in the Ultimate Taste Test event in Rockwell, competing with other super social products from all over the Philippines, the Soto Sarap. We were able to get the number 2 prize. By the way, the cheese earlier was number 2 again, I think, last year. So we were able to work with the community and take note that this was Tita Linda's idea. It was not a student from some school's idea. It was Tita Linda's concoction, turn it into something out of just leaves. We helped with the branding, we made it look slightly more readable, more accessible. It's now a brand, and tuloy-tuloy, we're aiming for 100,000 bottles by next month. So that's a social enterprise, again, connecting Tita Linda and her neighbors to a real market. Hindi lang yung basta-basta market. So again, connecting to employment, connecting to basics, connecting to markets. Once in a while, you will encounter a social enterprise that will be connecting communities to 2 or more. And that's the story of Happy Noy. Anyone here know the story of Happy Noy? It's quite complicated, so I'll share a video of Bam explaining the Happy Noy concept. We really like it in the social enterprise space because it's a different way of looking at social enterprise. Hindi lang siya livelihood. Napupunta tayo, tingnan natin si Tita Linda gumawa ng bottled tea, and yun. It was a different approach at building a social enterprise. So here goes. I shall mind that. Audio. This is the video where Bam and his team talks about Happy Noy and pitches it to the United Nations. I think 2 years ago, they joined a competition called Project Inspire, and this was their entries. So,
This daily essentials for the community. Now, these stores were Filipino, president of Microventures, and run the Happy Noy program in the Philippines. Our idea is basically to support all of the numerous micro-entrepreneurs and microfinance borrowers in the Philippines by aggregating them into a unified network of stores. In the Philippines, every corner you're going to find a small mom-and-pop store that sells daily essentials for the community. Now, these stores work independently. Our idea is to bring them together in a network, support them through financing, training, new business, and basically help them have more sustainable stores. So we call this the Happy Noy store. We put together the words Happy and Pinoy. Pinoy is a slang for Filipino. So put together, it's like the Happy Filipino store. Now, since we work with microfinance organizations, we primarily deal with women. They don't only pay their debts on time, they're also very good business owners with the right training and with the right opportunities. In the Philippines, the rich actually pay lower prices for goods. And the goods that communities need in far-flung areas never really get to them. To solve this problem, we didn't want to create new infrastructure, but by aggregating this existing infrastructure, we'll be able to get more of these goods and services to the poor that really need it. If you join the Happy Noy program, your business won't only progress or improve, but you'll be part of a network that can actually help the communities that they're in. In the short term, the store owners themselves will see a bump in their revenue. It's because the goods that they're purchasing through the program will be cheaper, and also the trainings that we give to them will be able to get them to a more efficient level of running their store. But in the long term, the idea is really to create a network of sari-sari stores, of these small stores, which can help the other local producers in the community. If you're a local producer in the Philippines, it's very hard for you, or it's practically impossible for you, to sell to one of the really large retailers here. But through Happy Noy, you're able to access a network.
it's okay, we can end there. If you're
Which can really support your growth.
it's okay.
And more importantly, support you in the sense that you can grow your
So more or less, you get the idea of Happy Noy. They empower sari-sari store owners, and we aggregate them so that they're one community of sari-sari store owners, and with that they have power to ask for better prices from companies and also work together to come up with new products for their network of stores. And through Happinoy, they're able to connect communities to employment because not only does the nanay get employed, but the store grows to become a community store, then a grocery, and they were able to hire more people in the process. Connect to basics because some stores actually are off-grid, so they provide solar lamps in those areas, or they become pharmacies for their areas. And finally, connecting to markets, because former micro producers who would have to sell their little yema or their ketchup to a market far away can now just go to a Happinoy store and he will become part of the Happinoy network. So that's another example of a social enterprise, but this time being able to connect communities to more than just one. Okay, that's the video. But admittedly, social entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Entrepreneurship is not for, you probably know, it's not also for everybody. But we could all be part of the social enterprise ecosystem. Earlier, somebody, ma'am from Tita Club, asked me, ano ba difference ng social enterprise sa corporate social responsibility? Is there a difference? Short answer is, for us, we say there's a big difference. Corporate social responsibility is merely an extension of your corporate identity. If you look at it negatively, you will say na leftover lang yun ng kumpanya na binibigay nila sa poor communities. Although I've seen corporations naman that are very, very nice na hindi lang leftover yung binibigay sa communities. But more often than not, CSR is just an extension of a corporate identity. Goodwill, PR, etc. after. Social enterprise really starts with a social problem, and your goal really is to empower a community. And so, if you draw that difference, you would see that eventually a social enterprise will be more sustainable in addressing that problem. Our dream, and those of us who build an ecosystem, is that in the future, there's no big difference now. Meaning, whether you're a corporation, whether you're an NGO, or whether you're a social enterprise, you're all part of an ecosystem really empowering communities. Of course, it's the idea. How will we get there? How will we build that ecosystem? Maybe if we have social entrepreneurs, and we could connect them to schools, we could connect them to government agencies, connect them to corporations and their management, connect them to other social enterprises, other grassroots communities, and an incubator that Tito Tony explained called the Enchanted Farm, then maybe the path to social entrepreneurship is easier, and maybe more of us could help social entrepreneurs. What does that ecosystem, what is the point of that ecosystem? We want social entrepreneurs to build brands. Hindi lang pwede na may livelihood program tayo din sa gilid, tapos okay na, happy tayo, we're helping them, kumita sila kahit paano. Dapat brand. The way Happinoy is a brand, the way Rags to Riches is a brand, the way Bayani Brew is a brand. Why do we want brands? Because we want scale. Any social enterprise from the get-go should aim for scale and sustainability to take us 5 years, to probably take us 10 years, maybe 20. But point is, from the start, we thought of scale. Why? Because some of you probably tried going to a community, helping them. It's taking a lot of time. And when you talk to a community, for example, more often than not, they're happy na kahit pa paano tumaas ng konti yung income nila. We shouldn't be satisfied with that. We should be satisfied when more communities are going out of poverty. And that's the point of scale. But why are we so confident about scale? Because solutions are there, number one. Number two, platforms are there. You have, for example, 2,000 Filipino communities. You have networks of agrarian reform beneficiaries. You have networks of microfinance borrowers. That if we're all just working together and collaborating, we could really build a national platform for our economy and our social entrepreneurs and tap overseas markets as well. But where do we begin? That's all big, it all sounds so highfalutin, but where do we begin? And I won't elaborate on this because the tutorial talked about it already. You begin with areas that are small but forgiving, meaning we could test a new business model, we could experiment, but at the same time demanding. Quality is demanded from social entrepreneurs. We call it Enchanted Farm, even though we talked about it already, I'll just flash some more photos. There. We invite you, our first one is in Bulacan, Bulacan. We're expected to build 24 other sites in the Philippines. But the big part of what we do is we engage partners, whether it's government or corporate. This is Shell's Center for Social Enterprise. This is Hyundai's Center for Green Innovation, which will open next year. And this one's the one I'd like to share, and maybe I'll end with this one. The Kawat Kalinga Life Bank Center for Bioeconomics. Why am I so excited about this one? Kawat Kalinga, through CSI, building social enterprises. Life Bank is one of the biggest microfinance institutions in the country. I think they have 300,000 borrowers. Admittedly, microfinance in itself, like social enterprise, has a lot of issues that it needs to resolve. It's not perfect, but if we collaborate, maybe we could do wonderful things, such as we are working with the Department of Agrarian Reform, and we're piloting this in Bulacan. Imagine if you have in one table representatives from the Agrarian Reform Beneficiary Organization, which is the organization for farmers in the Agrarian Reform community. If you have microfinance borrowers who have access to cash flow, and finally, if you have social entrepreneurs who could turn raw materials into a brand, then maybe if they talk, maybe if they collaborate, then we could really build a sustainable social enterprise. That's our dream, and we're starting to launch this next year. Never, I think, when we talked to Secretary Hill de los Reyes of DAR, nakwento niya that he hasn't seen something like this for agrarian reform beneficiaries. And Nick Perlas and Manny Perlas of Life Bank, they haven't done this yet for their microfinance borrowers. This is the first time we're doing this. Admittedly, we're not sure if it will work. Those are different cultures. You have a different culture for microfinance, different culture for social entrepreneurs, different cultures for students, and different cultures for farmers. But if we collaborate and we come up with a brand together in a social enterprise, we think that we could really do something really beautiful. The next few are just some of our initiatives, very simple ones that bring the markets to the farm. We regularly have countryside fair. We also have monthly camps. If you want a camp in your school, we could bring it to your school also. We invite social entrepreneurs to share how they did their stuff. Third, we regularly promote and talk about social enterprise every Tuesday in Ateneo and elsewhere. And lastly, we're building a student consulting group so that we could expand the network of social enterprise enthusiasts to other provinces, hopefully by next semester, by the end of this semester. So those are some of our little initiatives. Point is, we want to promote social enterprise because we think it could be a solution for some of our problems, not all of our problems. But we also think that everyone, whether you're into environment, whether you're into health, whether you're into public administration or whatever, you can contribute to the ecosystem. And we've seen that done the right way, communities truly become empowered, and they truly empower others as well. And we think it's a sustainable approach to some of our biggest problems today. Thank you so much for listening. I'm excited to your questions.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Shalene Dasing from Ibita Global. Yes, and I'm a management student. So I would like to ask this. What could be the major challenges of being a social entrepreneur?
Okay. Major challenge of being a social entrepreneur. There are a lot of major challenges being an entrepreneur. I will not discuss that now. Maybe what I'd add is, what's unique to a social entrepreneur is that you're working with a community. And that community has daily needs. And they will have daily issues. And you will have to contend with that. Meaning, if you're in a corporation, and your partner or your employee has a problem in her community, nag-away sila ng asawa niya or whatever, you don't expect him or her to bring that to your negosyo. But when you're a social entrepreneur, since you're working with the community and babad ka sa community, which is very important, hindi mo maaalis yun. So a social entrepreneur also has to be, in some sense, a community organizer, a psychiatrist, a development worker, etc., etc., etc. You really have to be there to listen to the issues. You can't just, if somebody brings up an issue, a community issue, hindi mo siya pwedeng ignore because it will blow up and it will affect your social enterprise. We've seen it in many social enterprises that if they ignore the issues in the community, thinking that they're running it like a corporation, it blows up in front of their face and they don't survive. That's a big difference from a regular enterprise or a corporation. If may away ang kapitbahay, hindi umuwi yung anak, naputulan ng kuryente, hindi mo problema yun. Problema na yun. Employado mo siya, blah, 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 wala kang kailang. Which is expected, di ba? Social enterprise cannot be. You really have to deal with that problems. You are part of the community. And so that's one big problem. At the beginning, we didn't know. And so we went there and, very excited and we're like, so hopefully when we all start our social enterprises, we are armed with that knowledge. But we're ready. Kasi people naman are willing to help. If you don't know how to be a psychiatrist, for example, or development worker, other people are willing to help you with that. At least you know that there's that problem. Yun lang, actually. Thanks.
All right, we're open to one more question.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Karl
Carlo.
SK chairman of one of the barangay in Argao. Argao Cebu.
Argao?
Yeah.
Mayroon hapon.
I just wanted to ask, as an SK, we have a 10% share of our budget, diba? So, the thing is, hindi namin alam kung paano, minsan, I know, ewan kasi ba, hindi sa amin parang hindi namin alam kung paano gamitin. We wanted to conduct trainings and seminars. So, the main sources of income kasi sa aming barangay is agriculture. So, we wanted to ask if pwede po bang mag-connect sa inyo para makaano kami, makagawa ng mga trainings?
I really like that. We have a team in Cebu, but I'm Cebuano, so I really want to work with you in Argao. So, look, contact me. Dugay-dugay din pwedeng ina nila. So, call me maybe.
All
But
right.
him, yes.
All right, last one quick question from the ladies in front.
Hi, so I'm Nikki and this is Naira. We're from the University of San Carlos.
Oh, Cebu, go Cebu.
So we've been practicing social enterprise for at least more than half a year now as part of our business practicum program. So we have this enterprise. A little background of it is it's made out of recycled polypropylene straps, and we actually partnered with one of the Galina villages in Cebu. What got us into social entrepreneurship first was Sir Bangkino. He spoke once in our school, so we had this question.
Can you advise us on how we can, in our very young age, be able to convince or empower them to be committed and dedicated to the company? Because we actually gave them positions because at times they committed errors in our products and we cannot directly say to them what we really want because we have to respect them as our elders, of course, and we cannot really empower. We cannot really convince them or be able to make them commit to what they are doing with our company.
Okay. There are a lot of things in my head. Just two quick things. One is factor in your cost the errors, meaning factor in your R&D expense. In a typical company, you have research and development, and then you spend for that, etc. You make mistakes, etc., etc. Like a social enterprise, you also have to have that. Of course, our resources are limited, but at least we factor it, meaning we know how much we can allot for mistakes. We will make mistakes. Number one. Number two, what's the final product?
It's actually leaf bags.
Bags. Okay. Sorry, I'll tell you that. See, what Reese did, when they went to Payatas, yung mga nanays doon, hindi rin nila maintindihan bakit ang strict ni Reese dun sa bags. Bakit parang, nung nagra-rugs kami, wala naman pakialam yung mga tao, rugs, diba? Why is she so strict? So what Reese did, she brought them to Greenbelt, showed them fancy bags, these are the bags we are competing with. We have to match the quality, etc., etc. Or in your case, maybe something not necessarily green dot, somewhere in Ayala, for example. And they appreciate the quality that goes into those bags that are your competitors. And maybe they appreciate also the kind of diligence that is needed to make those products. Okay.
We actually did that. We brought them to several malls around our malls.
Didn't work.
It's the mindset that they have. There are times that they do not want to make the bags. Where they have the talent, but then I think it is a mentality you have na we're okay, we're contented with what we have.
Okay, lahi na na. Gusto ko ito. Sinusudan ako dito. Let's stop it.
All right, there you go. So that I think that finishes the